Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
For all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
Happen in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reach the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City!
Leicester Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right there, all right the back. How the devil are we? Welcome along. It's a quiet week this week. No football at the weekend, so you've got no excuse. You have to go out shopping with the missus, whether you want to or not. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Thanks a lot for tuning in. You can get us on YouTube at Leicester Till I Die TV, like I say. And if you are on YouTube, please smash the lights and click that subscribe button. It is a great help. And thank you for listening as well, if that's the way you are getting us tonight on your favourite podcast platform. We are all over the place. And tonight, well, it's a case of hands across the ocean, as they say, as we have our Foxes Across the Pond special. Unfortunately, in the words of John, words of John Wayne, then John, you've just popped up on my message board. Good evening, John. How the devil are you? Nippon NS Sports TV, hello as well. Well, I was about to say, in the words of Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, because we haven't got an Alex with us, but we have got Zach. Good evening, Zach. How are you, sir?
Doing good, sir. How about yourself?
Not so bad at all, thank you very much. How is it over there in America at the moment?
Right now, we talked, we just got some snow here in Northwest Arkansas, which is very rare, but it started to come time. All the universities are out for spring break, so it's going to be just a nice, relaxing week for me personally.
Now, I've got to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
This is just a personal thing before we get talking football.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the state of Kansas.
Yes.
And you've got the state of what I would say reads as Arkansas, not Arkansas, Arkansas. I don't get it.
It's one of those, it's because of the pronunciation that we had for what the indigenous population called our area. And several years ago, our legislature made a rule of this is how you pronounce a state name. So they are very adamant about having it called Arkansas, while the state that's nearby us is called Kansas.
Right. So, but you technically you are Kansas. That's what I'm getting at. For us Brits, you know. Good evening, Static. How the devil are you, sir? Thank you for joining us. Right, so we've got a couple of months to catch up on. Because Zach, as I say, can't be with us and wasn't able to be with us last time. And unfortunately, like I say, it's been a while since we last spoke, but after we spoke, this was the next game, the FA Cup. Got through to the second round, so we didn't quite equal Arsenal's record of going out at the first round as holders, but we didn't do an awful lot better, did we?
No, it definitely felt like a capitulation. I was able to watch pretty much up until like the third goal, and once the third goal happened, I just looked at my wife and just went, "Why? Why?"
Mm.
It's like, why are we losing? It's like it's if it was if we lose to Forest like 1-0, it would have been okay. 1-0, it's Forest. I hate losing to them, but 1-0 is fair.
Yes.
4-1, it was definitely very embarrassing for us being holders of the champion of the title to go out in such a way, and also
Mm.
not to mention just the other elephant in the room with how people acted inside grounds, outside the grounds. It was just total embarrassment in and
Yes.
off the
Yeah.
pitch.
Yes. I mean, the way I looked at it was that because it was the FA Cup rather than the Premier League,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have to, well, we couldn't call the games off for any COVID ill players. And in the previous round against Watford, which, whatever you say about Watford, they are still a Premier League team, we beat them 4-1. But with that team, we had, I think we ended up with either 5 or 6 sort of academy stroke youth players on the pitch.
Correct.
Nottingham Forest was the big, the big rivals and the big team, the big players were back, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I thought would have been better off maybe putting out the youth players, because what passion the youth players showed against Watford just wasn't there from the first team as against Forest.
I definitely agree with you on that. It just felt like that some of the players that we put out, it was just more like, okay, well, it's a cup run, let's just go for promotions and then just see what happens. And then just really after 3-0, you should see some kind of passion, you should see some kind of intensity. It just wasn't there.
Your sound is breaking up a lot, Zach. I don't know if you can hear me okay.
Okay.
Whether it's the weather or not, I'm catching sort of every other word.
Okay, I can see you. I can hear you.
That's better. I can hear you fine now. Yes, yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, we were the holders, and I often think that we have so many, and no disrespect to our American friends, but we have so many, if you like, non-English players that are in that team, and you wonder if they understand what these local derbies mean.
I know for some, if let's go ahead and take one of our players for examples. Like, let's say you got a Sagarzonchu. It's like there's some big rivalries in like Turkey because you got your Galatasaray, you got your teams like that. But it's just I don't really think for some people with us winning the cup, they're like, okay, well, we won it. That's one less we have to worry about. Some other players are going, hey, it's Forest. It's our domestic cup. We're the current holders. We need to go fight for what we have. But others are just, as I mentioned, just going for the motions of, okay, this is what I need to go do, or I'm just coming back from this injury. Let's go ahead and just make sure I know what I'm doing, and just really not a lot of intensity that we expect out of a derby match.
Yeah. Oh, definitely agree there. But that was us out of both of the domestic cups. We then after that came up against what is turning out to be a resurgent Liverpool, and I thank them for at least making the title race a bit interesting these days. It was kind of, to me, we'd beaten them earlier in the season at our place 1-0. It was very much a defensive performance. They were throwing everything at us. They missed the penalty. It came there and the people said, oh, yeah, it was a lot better, a lot better performance, and they only beat us 2-0. But it felt like Liverpool never got out of second gear. When you see a sort of a dog sort of, playing with a toy, or cat playing with a bird or something. They were like toying with us.
It definitely felt that they were looking to, as you mentioned, get a resurgence within the league itself to try to go on their title run, but also just seeing that 1-0 loss at the King Power, go, you know what, we need to make sure that when we have the return fixture, we don't want to embarrass themselves at home. They want to make sure that not only to show they're faithful, but also just to show the world that, hey, we're not going to lose again to Leicester City. And unfortunately, we just kind of not only just coming back from that 4-1 defeat against Forest in the Cup. I would imagine that just some of that flaggy feeling from that 4-1 defeat carried over to Anfield, which is sometimes an intimidating place to go play.
It can, yeah, it can. I just think everybody was sort of saying, like, all the performance was there, and it wasn't a bad performance, but I do feel like I say, like almost like Liverpool hadn't got out of second gear. But it was almost, I suppose, when you're playing Liverpool at the moment, it is almost like it's a free hit, if you like, because we're not expected to win it anyway. Now, the next game that came up was a very interesting game because we were playing West Ham at home. And this is where I think I annoyed quite a few fellow Foxes fans off, because I think I don't think about it, that was the game that I called Brendan a bell end, because we're 2-1 up and he makes a substitution of taking off. I forget who he took off now, but he brought on Jan Vestergaard at a corner right at the last minute. And I just don't get why, because to me, it's schoolboy stuff. You do not take or make any substitutions when you're defending a free kick or a corner. You wait until afterwards, because you just don't make it, you just disrupt things. And Vestergaard got slated for it, which I don't think, it wasn't his fault, but he suddenly came on and everybody's kind of going like, who's doing what, who's walking, whatever. And we came away with 1 point rather than the 3. And I just think he got his... I have questioned his substitutions a lot this season, and I know it's not been easy with all the injuries, but I just don't get substitutions like that.
It's like, this is one of the games that was one of those that I was kind of like in the room just waking up. My wife was watching match, and then all of a sudden I started cheering right at the 94th, 95th. I was thinking, okay, was it us? Was it them? And then once I heard my wife kind of just like swearing in the background, I'm like, okay, it was West Ham that scored. I know beforehand myself and a couple of our Foxes were kind of like thinking are going to be seeing Zuma because of everything that was going on with his legal issues, and it turns out that he wasn't. But it's still just very, very distressing that it felt like a Tottenham all over again, to where we were up, we were winning at home, we were in the final minutes of the match, was like, just get a result, grind out the win, and we capitulate points. And that was the most distressing part of it all, was to concede at that last corner, and then eventually full time came in seconds later. It's just
that is it. If you're going to go defensive, fine, we could argue that Brendan goes defensive too quickly a lot of the time, but I mean, that was sort of just ridiculously late, 91st minute virtually, and he thinks, and we're about to defend a corner, let's change the corner. I mean, I just don't get it. And that, and no way am I saying that Brendan should go or we should get rid of Brendan. I'm very much a Brendan in person on that side of the fence, but I just, like I say, I was so annoyed, because that would have been 3 points rather than the 1. Because the performance again was a good performance. We'd started to show signs of maybe we were turning the corner, but I just didn't get that at all at that time. Why make that substitution? But he's paid the big bucks, and I'm not, I suppose.
Yeah, it was just very, very just confusing, distressing, and it's just why kind of situation. Yes. And it's just, and some of the people that were to keep Brendan in the camp, turn him into, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. There's other people just like you saying, hey, it was a very stupid mistake. We still want him in the club. I was just thinking we just got to find a way to turn the results around.
Yes,
Because we just can't have another capitulation like we did with West Ham. We can't have another Tottenham Hotspur again this season.
And then we did have a bit of a break from the Premier League. What are your thoughts, first of all, before we get into the match stuff? What are your thoughts on the Conference League? I mean, I'm very much don't agree with teams dropping down. So say Man United dropping into the Europa League and nearly winning that. And then I don't think that we should be in the Conference League because we failed, in the Europa. But that said, we're in it, and I want to go ahead. I want to win it. We're in it, so I want to win it. But a lot of Tottenham didn't treat it with respect. Arsenal didn't want to be in it. The Sunderland finished 8th. It's a European trophy, isn't it? At the end of the day.
It is one of those that especially for a club like us, even though, yes, we have been in Champions League before. Yes, we have gone into European competitions before, but it just allows us as a club to not only just expose ourselves to different styles of play across Europe that, let's say, if whenever Brendan does leave, we can kind of see from different clubs across, let's say, non-traditional markets like your Bulgarias, like your Latvias, and other former Soviet states that you can say, hey, I really like this kind of style of play. Hey, this is the kind of player that we'll need in the future. And this gives us that exposure. In the terms of like dropping down from the different leagues, as an American, I personally, we don't really have anything like that here in the US or even in Canada. So that's something that we're kind of just looking at going, okay, it's kind of sad that we're dropping down to a lesser division.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's a quasi relegation, but at the same time, as you mentioned, it's a European trophy, and it's still something to go strive for. To say, hey, we have a trophy in the cabinet. We want to give it all our own for just the people who come to work day in and day out, but also just the players that might not get the time the Premier League or not get some time in the domestic cups, be able to get some time in Europe and expose our brand, expose our kind of football to Europe at large.
Well, we came along. We'd been drawn with this team none of us had ever heard of, which was Randers from Denmark, and basically, I mean, the tie was over in that first leg, wasn't it? A great performance. I mean, no disrespect to Randers, but it's a game we should be winning, isn't it?
Yes, it definitely felt very good to have a 4-1 victory to make sure that so if something did happen in the second leg, where if it was a draw or if we happened to lose 1-0, we had that much of a comfort zone, especially now with the changes to where away goals and home goals are weighted the same and not as it was previously.
I mean, we went 1-0 up. Indeed, he put us 1-0 up. And then, of course, Leicester do what Leicester do best, and that's concede a goal just before half-time. And at that point, I thought, here we go again. This is Leicester, a team here we're going to get knocked out by. But then second half, Barnes, Daka, and, Dewsbury Hall all getting on the score sheet and get, that... We couldn't really do more than we'd done on that game. That was pleasing to see.
Indeed, and it's made things a lot easier for the second leg. That's kind of what we're hoping for, is that with us being a tournament, with this conference, we just have to do well. And that kind of cemented, okay, we need to be sure that when we're going against future competition in this tournament, that even if, let's say, we're not winning 4-1, 5-0, it's still something that we need to go strive for, necessarily have to go and break a sweat in the second leg.
Yeah. You are still breaking up to me. I don't know if you are to everybody else in the chat, but it's coming and going at the moment with the breaking up. But we can still carry on. We then came to Wolves. We featured. Yeah, Mike is just saying here, and I was just saying, how were you sounding? Is it just me? he says you're sounding sort of really laggy, which is a technical term in Wales, I guess, for a slow computer, but it is breaking up. But then anyway, we'll carry on because I say it is coming and going. We then went to Wolves, who we'd beaten on the opening day. And to be honest with you, even then, I think the warning bell should have been signing, because had they had a decent striker that day, they may well not have lost it. But I think this was one game where the performance didn't really rely the result. And I think we played well enough to get at least a draw against this one, but it wasn't to be.
Yep. Unfortunately, this is one of those games that I was not able to watch. So I was kind of more just seeing the highlights, and it just felt like that. Kind of like with Liverpool, they were just wanted to make sure that they weren't going to lose twice in a row to Leicester City, and with them kind of just winning, and some of the changes that they made during the winter break, and also especially getting Jimenez back from injury, that definitely made things a lot easier for Wolves to kind of just fight for their spot in the Premier League.
I mean, we had 240 odd more passes than they did. We had 240 odd more touches than they did. It was unfortunate. I say that I think that game lasted how it did, but again, that's kind of been sort of Leicester's season, hasn't it? Really, But then we came to Randers away, and I mean, the game was done. We scored after 2 seconds, and it was over. And I got a bit annoyed with that, because yes, we'd won it. Yes, the job was done. But if we have a look at sort of the match info from there, and again, I don't know if you managed to see this one at all, but we allowed them so many chances to get back into the game in that second leg. Yes, like you say, like I say, we went 1-0 up after 2 minutes. It was as good as over. But when you're looking at the stats, they had, well, we had 7 shots. They had 23. Now, to me, that shouldn't be happening.
No, it definitely should not have been happening. It's one of those where even though, yes, having a goal within 2 minutes is definitely kind of just setting the tone, but it just felt like that once that first goal was made, we were just kind of just letting them try to come back into it, as you said, with the 20 some odd shots to our 7. And we should have had more opportunities to go and not let them get into that final third to go pepper the goal with shots, and perhaps with the and not to mention with how we were in the terms of defending corners by giving those opportunities to go get corners and then eventually score corners against us. It was definitely something that it was very concerning.
Yes, yeah. And, I mean, even when they got the 1 goal back, 84 minutes, it was just unfortunate, that one. I think Schmeichel had stopped all that was at him. And then James Maddison sort of, had popped up in the 70th and 74th minute to sort of kill the game off altogether. So it was very much a consolation goal for them. It was a bit of a mix-up. I can't blame Vestergaard for that one. It was just a bumpy pitch that did for Schmeichel. But we were through. That was the main thing. But like I say, letting a team, if we get as far as meeting Roma, and of course we've got to get past BSV first, and we'll come on to those. But if we let them have that many shots against us, we're not going to get off this lightly, are we?
Exactly, especially with, like, as you mentioned, with some of the top competition in Europe, such as Roma, PSV, Bodo Glimt, and some others that we could possibly see in the future in this competition.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is a worry. The last game, of course, was postponed, this time due to Chelsea being in a cup final. And I have to say, and I do enjoy saying this, but and I can never Kepa, the Chelsea goalkeeper, missing the penalty. I think the word we're looking for there is karma. I remember when he would not get off the pitch, and he was And he just got his comeuppance. He got what he deserved, I think. But that's just me personally. But into March, and we went to Burnley. Never an easy side to go and face. And they'd won a couple as well. That was they had looked like they were going to start turning things around. And they had a good result against Tottenham, and I think it's always a difficult place to go to. But we've struggled against the lower teams this season, so it was never going to be guaranteed. But we suddenly put in a good performance and got the 3 points.
And one thing that I've been kind of learning lately, especially with the makeup matches, is it's better to have points on the board than to have games in hand. So by having this rescheduled fixture land in our favor, and also probably good thing by having the Chelsea match postponed because of the energy drink final. It's definitely gave us a chance to have us rest and also get some of our guys back from injury, get guys back from illness, and to be able to get these 3 points against Burnley was definitely something that it was the start of a good turnaround.
Yeah. I mean, we did make hard work of it, really. Sort of, it took us until the 80th minute, or the 82nd minute when Maddison scored. And Vardy was back, if only for the one game, and it did annoy the Burnley fans that he'd come back, scored a goal, and then went off injured again. But I think it just shows last season Inacho got the most goals. He hasn't been prolific, but he gets the odd goal that is very, very important. But more than anything, he scares the defenders.
Indeed, and it's just by having someone else besides, let's say, like a James Maddison or a Jamie Vardy or even a Patson Daka score goals for us. That's definitely something that, especially with the injury crisis we have and the fixture congestion we had, it's definitely good to have that rotational of people who are able to score goals for us.
Yes, yeah, and we have, and if Vardy's on and he does take over, the defenders out, you have got the Lookmans and the Barnes that can come on and do that. I mean, this was better, you see, for us. They had 9 shots, we had 22. We had nearly 100 more passes, we had nearly 100 more touches. That's was really the Leicester that I remember from the last couple of seasons.
And also, not to mention, our first clean sheet in who knows how long.
Oh, God, how could I forget? Yes, exactly. Yes.
That was probably the biggest standout point, is just having that clean sheet after so long in all competitions. That's just like, wow.
Yes. We managed it. We managed it. And then clean sheets, a bit like buses over here in this country. You're waiting ages for one, and then 2 come along together. we came up against a Leeds side with a new manager, a new manager apparently who loves zonal marking at the back. And to be honest with you, the Leeds fans are quite happy with that. And I said, I don't know why. Don't do it. Just look at us. But it was a tight game. And I think overall, I think we deserved it. And again, it was 2 wins on the trot and 2 clean sheets.
Absolutely. I know before the match, with having an American Jesse March being the new manager of Leeds United, we were kind of looking at it, just kind of going along one as an American, saying, "Wow, an American managing the Premier League again," but also just seeing like what kind of changes are going to absolutely do going from Bielsa to Marsh. And it was just a lot of just question marks to figure out if Leeds are going to go respond to the manager change, if they're going to kind of just still trying to get their feelings figured out for what Marshall wants to go do. But the fact that they were able to come into the King Power, new manager bounce, everything along those lines, and we still managed to grind out a 1-0 result after coming back from a tough Burnley match, and after still kind of like figuring out, is Vardy going to be with us? Vardy not going to be with us? It's it definitely was a good result to show to the King Power faithful.
It was, and it was a tight game. But I mean, again, you know, and it's just a little pet hate of mine. I'm sorry, and I know the only stat that matters is the fact that we got the ball in the net once and they didn't get it in at all. But again, we were letting them come at us. We gave them, 19 shots to our 7. I can say, and to me, that just annoys me because when you do that against the big teams, we literally said 2 minutes ago, you're not going to get away with it. Casper's not always going to be on his top form and be able to save us every single time. And they're not always going to be up against strikers that are going to put it into row Z. But on that occasion, we did get away with it.
Mm-hmm. And especially with how we are in the terms of conceding set pieces and corners this season. It was one of those, like, imagine those shots if it became corners. That could have been easily a 1-1 draw.
I'd rather not, if you don't mind. Don't get me to do that. And then we just got into silly mode then, because we then ended up with 3 clean sheets on the row, and it's like nosebleed time. We hosted Rennes, who weren't to be taken lightly. They were just outside the European places in Ligue 1 in France, but. And, I think we were all saying at 1-0, yes, we want to go take it to their place with a win, but 1-0 just didn't feel comfy. But how important did it end up, Kelechi's second goal?
Very, very much important because, as you mentioned, Rennes is one of those teams that will always seem to be in the mix for trying to get in the top spots of Ligue 1. If you discount, let's say, like PSG constantly winning the whole thing. And it's just, and especially with us getting to these rounds now, with having a lot of the teams that either are constantly either in the Champions League or just always in the finals of Europa Leagues, it's like we have to step up our competition against European sides. So by having this 2-0 win, it, as you kind of alluded to, definitely helped us in the long run whenever we had to go to the second leg over at Rennes.
And 93 minutes. It was nice for us to do that to somebody rather than have it done to us.
Right.
It felt a lot nicer. And again, I can't really go mad about this result, other than the fact that I did a watch along with it, and it was with 2 Arsenal fans, which probably made it feel worse than it actually was. But we had a little trip down to the Emirates in London, ended up losing 2-0. But let's be honest, we very rarely get anything when we visit Arsenal.
Definitely agree with you on that. Like, I was in a bar in Fayetteville, not too far from where I live, watching the match with my wife, and then with like 20 some Arsenal supporters on the big screen, and from just kind of watching the match, from just even hearing their commentary, the fact that we were able to kind of just keep it 1-0 until the penalty was awarded, it was kind of surprising to them because they were thinking that by us having our defensive line set up, they were not really able to break through too much through the whole final third, and the fact that we're able to go get in, steal passes, and be able to kind of cause a nuisance in that back line really frustrated a lot of the Arsenal supporters.
Yes.
It's just such that unlucky penalty and then just that unlucky corner. It could have easily been a 0-0 draw if we were lucky enough.
I mean, the corner, you thought, here we go again. It's back. And then the penalty, I mean, was it a penalty? Wasn't a penalty? Some people saying it was soft. The only way I can do is look at it and go, if it was the other way, would I be annoyed if we didn't get it? Would I be screaming for it? And yes, I would with that one. I would. But then you had the question of encroaching. I mean, there's no guarantee that had the referee made him take it again, that he would have scored anyway. He probably would, he should do, really. So we wouldn't necessarily have been any better off. But what did you think about the encroachment and the claims for it to be taken again?
So with regards to the penalty, it could. The way I looked at it, it could have been like no penalty, but I could have seen a red card against Soyeonchu. So that's probably the only reason why that we probably did not see that red card, as they gave them that penalty. But it was very, very, very soft. I
Yeah.
think the encroachment. I looked at it again. It definitely felt very, very close, but also Casper was off his line as well during the encroachment. So it just felt kind of one of those. If there were so many things they could have called uh, for them to go retake the penalty, either being Casper being off his line, the encroachment, but they decided just to go ahead and just. I felt like it was a good. I hated the call, but I felt like it was the right decision for them to just have the penalty stood.
Yeah, I think had it gone back to Zaka, I think was the one that you could see encroaching. I think there was someone on the other side as well. Had it come back to him and he scored, then it might have well been reviewed, you know. But like I said, I mean, with this game again, you see, we had more passes. We had 80 odd more passes. We had 70 odd more touches. We had more tackles. But when it came down to it, we had 6 shots on goal. They had 21. And I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but it you know, that has, for me, that's something that's got to be looked at for next season.
Absolutely. It just felt like that we were trying to go focus more on trying to feed that one striker, and with the line that Arsenal had, we had to have at least 2 strikers, or at least somebody on the wings to go and be like a second or third striker whenever, let's say, we're trying to go pass it up forward, because I felt like we always kept on losing it as soon as we got past the halfway line.
Indeed. And then it was back to Europe, and we went over to Brittany and faced Rennes. And I've got to say, I've got to give credit here to the Rennes fans. It was an amazing atmosphere. Again, I don't know whether you were able to see it or not, but they were making so much noise from the get-go. And I wouldn't have liked to have been out there, I've got to be honest with you.
I didn't have a chance to see the match, unfortunately, but from the videos that I saw from, let's say, like YouTube or Instagram or whatnot, it's like they definitely made it a fortress, and it definitely felt like this is a proper European night.
Yes.
And for us to be able to squeak by how we did, I was very, very surprised that we managed to make it through this competition.
I mean, it was a good game. I mean, they went ahead after 8 minutes, and again, I thought, oh, here we go. this is Leicester again. You know, here we go. But we held on. 2 things. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant having Fofana back. I mean, absolutely great, and he scored a goal. I mean, he went up and came back, got a goal, and he went straight over. And to me, this is very telling, because a lot of fans have been saying, what, with the defensive problems we've had, what is Kolo Touré doing? He was a defender. He's obviously, that's what he should be coaching, and yet we're having these bad, at times at corners. But Fofana made a point after Rodgers of going over and hugging Kolo Touré, and I think that kind of said to me a lot that, yeah, maybe we don't think Kolo's doing much, but the players obviously like him and respect him.
I definitely felt that was a touching moment to show that not only Fofana coming back, but also kind of showing the support to him, saying, "Hey, look, it's okay. We've still made it through to the next round, and it's only just going to go up from here. Not only for just him as a player, but also just for us as a club." So I found that very touching.
Yeah. And they did pull one back to take it 2-1. I think their manager was very ungracious in defeat, was claiming a lot of things about the match. But again, like I said a few minutes ago, that Kelechi goal in the first leg was absolutely worth its weight in gold. I mean, before we go on to the last game, as we're in Europe at the moment, we've got. I mean, nobody's got to be taken lightly at this stage. I mean, we're in the quarterfinals of a European competition. it's as far as we've been. And we went, got that far in the Champions League that season. So we've matched our best ever in Europe. No team can be taken lightly, even Blod-Glimt, whatever they're called. I mean, they've got Roma, but they were in the same group and they beat Roma. Was it 6-0 or 6-1? So they're not to be taken lightly. What do you think you'll get in Eindhoven?
I was definitely looking forward to get a Dutch side. Like I was telling people, I was looking to go against Feyenoord, but the fact that we got PSV Eindhoven, which is one of the top sides in the Netherlands, right behind Ajax. It was definitely one of those. We're going against a team that we could easily be seeing in the Champions League, during better times, and I really, really hope that we can kind of show in this first leg that hey, that even though yes, these are going to be tough competition, but it's all going to get tougher from here.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's apart from Blod-Glimt, including ourselves, every team there, if you go back within the last decade, every one of those teams has been in the Champions League. So, like I said, there's no teams to take lightly. I was really, really hoping for Slavia Prague so we could get revenge for last season.
I agree
wasn't to
on
be.
that.
Yeah. And then I say the bad thing is, I suppose it's not the bad thing because you've got to play the best if you want to get to the final and win the final. You've got to play the best at some point. But if we do get through, and Blod-Glimt don't do what they did against Roma in their league, we're going to end up against Roma.
If we do go against Roma, I would be pretty excited. Even though yes, we know that it is going to be a very hard draw against Roma, but the fact that we're going against not only who they are as a club in the terms of history in Serie A, but also with their manager and Mr. Mourinho, it's definitely one of those that if we can prove for ourselves against Roma, even let's say we do not move on to the next competition, as long as we don't embarrass ourselves, then I think a lot of Fox's supporters will be happy with what we do.
Yeah, I mean, a semi-final of any. I mean, I think just for me, call it something else than the Europa Conference because it does. It sounds like it has been tagged onto the Europa League, so it hasn't got its own identity. And of course, to me, conference says non-league football, amateur football. So I think the whole name of it, unfortunately, doesn't work well for me. But we're through. That's all we can. Like I say, you can only beat who's in front of you, and you've got to beat these these teams that are in front of you. Mike says Roma are boring. Well, look at the manager. It was never going to be any difference. We'll just take a draw off you at the KP, then grind it out at Stadio Olimpico, quite possibly Stadio Olimpico. Sorry. Last game of the month, last weekend, Brentford. Ivan Toney has been on fire recently. Christian Eriksen, and it's great news that he's back, and it's great news that he was picked for Denmark. Unfortunately, then, and they say life's a bitch, he then went and got COVID. But 2-1, were you able to see this match at all?
I saw a little bit of the highlights because I was kind of working that morning.
Right.
But I remember I was kind of like working on some pizzas and whatnot, and whenever I heard like the commentaries, like, and Castagna with the free kick, I'm like, oh, it was like Castagna goal.
Yes, yeah.
And then once I got a minute to go see the goal, I just saw the curvature of that goal, kind of saw like where he shot it from. I was just like, wow. I was just I was pretty I was pretty excited by that. To see him not only back in the first team, but also just with that strike to where I think he's even more surprised by how he did it.
Yeah, I don't think he could quite believe it himself. I mean, you're looking at before we go on to the second goal, you're looking at, to me, probably the goal of the season. I mean, it was when we first signed him. I think it was in either the first game or the first home game. I remember we were wearing purple, so I'm thinking it wasn't home. He scored an amazing goal, and you're thinking that this is the player we've just bought, brilliant. But that one, it was I mean, no goalkeeper in the world was saving that.
No, it was just right in that little corner that even though that he was trying to make that effort, it was just right in that perfect sweet spot to where it was
Yes.
very hard to get to.
Yes. Oh, it was unbelievable. And then, not to be outdone, Maddison Maddison comes up and gets a free kick. All right, you could say maybe he bought it, but then, you know, teams do it to us, so it works both ways. But again, picks out the other corner. Again, no goalkeeper stopping it. That's the Maddison that we've been missing.
Absolutely, and just kind of just shows that one, Southgate, you need to be watching, and two, it's just definitely one of those pretty happy that we were able to go 2-0 against a Brentford side that, as you mentioned, just like having that feel good with Christian Eriksen, even though he was out with COVID, but just being able to kind of just for them, they kind of reminded me a little bit of a Leeds last year, to where they just go have all these beginning runs at the beginning of the season, a little bit of falter, but still a team that can easily scare you if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, they'd won a couple, and they were on a sort of a run back, and I think they'll still be good enough to stay up. So I mean, that one again, passes, touches, tackles, we were better all over the pitch, and I think that, you know, we did deserve that. Dare I say, we're back. I mean, we're getting a lot of our first team. We know how horrendous the injury situation's been. Can I just say how disappointed I was in Johnny Evans when he came on? I mean, you know, Fofana comes on after injury, scores a goal. Castagna comes on after injury and scores a goal. What was Johnny Evans playing at? Come on, you know, we expected at least a goal off him. But in all seriousness, it was great to see him back as well. As I say, they're all players are coming back at the right time. Could we make a late challenge? I don't think we're going to get in the sort of top 4 or 5. 8th, I had to do a thing for the BBC today saying where we might end up, how many points, and I went for about 50 points and possibly 8th, which might be good enough for Europe. But am I hoping too much? We've had a lot of false dawns up this season, haven't we?
With us being back in the 10th, I was kind of pretty happy that we're at least in the top half of the table, and just kind of, I wasn't necessarily worried about not being survival or getting very close to the relegation zone, but with these results, I was very, very happy that we're climbing up to the table, and still with 2 games in hand, because I know we still got to play Chelsea, we still got to play Norwich in the league, so that's 2 more matches that we know that we got to go do, but I'm still kind of thinking we'll probably be in 9th or 10th by the time the season is over. If we get the 8th, that'll be great. If we somehow get a European spot, that would be awesome. But I know it's our best bet will probably either be Europa League or Conference League qualification.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you, a player that at one point couldn't seem to be dropped for any reason, no matter how bad a game he had, to a player that now is not being picked at all, even, you know, when we've got injuries. Jose Perez, do you think we've seen the last of him? Is he going to be offloaded this summer, do you think?
I personally think he's going to be offloaded in the summer. I think he did well for whenever he was with us, whenever he was not injured. But I just think something must have happened where just the injuries and just something must have happened where he fell out of favor to where I think it would probably be best if we just allow him to go to another club this summer.
Yes, yeah. I'm going to have one last question, and I know I've asked you this before, and it's asked all the time, but Mike was asking a question for Zach, might have already been answered, but what made him support Leicester? And that's only because I think Mike is a Man United fan, and I think he thinks anybody that lives in America should be supporting Man United.
Yes, I'll absolutely answer this question. So, whenever I was in college, I had a couple of classmates that watch Premier League matches. So a lot of times they'll support like your Manchester Uniteds, your Cities, your Chelsea's, pretty much your big clubs. A lot of the people around me support Arsenal because of the FIFA video game. For me, how I was introduced to Leicester City was back in the title run of 15-16. They did a partnership with my with an NFL team I supported since I was a child called the Carolina Panthers. Both teams were kind of seen as underdogs for the respective leagues. So we got to see a little bit of what Leicester City was about through the Panthers. We got to know a little bit about Jamie Vardy, Cassius Michael, Christian Fuchs, and a couple of the squad players. And they also did like a cultural exchange where we sent jerseys and footballs to Leicester City. Leicester City sent jerseys and balls to the Panthers, and they were kind of supporting each other not only on social media but also just everywhere you can see. I also, once I started looking at Leicester City, thinking, okay, I just want to look at these underdogs and kind of see what they're doing. I found their ownership was from Thailand, which I have families live in Thailand. I got friends that live in Thailand, and I just kind of started just falling in love with them. I bought my first Leicester shirt about 1 or 2 years ago, before they started getting their European competitions, and I just felt just a connection with the Foxes, with not only just with all that ties in with the Panthers and Leicester, but also with Thailand, and also just how welcoming the supporters have been, no matter if they've been lifelong supporters, if they've been supporters I found here in Arkansas, or just really just the whole football community in general. And I just fell in love with the club.
And it is great to have you on board, even from Arkansas. I better not say anything; I might get shot. Let's just have a look. Mike says, "Come on, Perez is unreal." Yeah, unreal is probably the right word, but not probably in the way you meant it. Mike says, "Wow, that is truly a great reason for supporting the team. Shows how mental and for club support goes and reaches. It is." And I mean, I no disrespect to Man United. My children weren't born in Leicester; they were born in Burnley, where I lived at the time. And I said to the boys, I said, you can support Burnley because it's your hometown, and you're at school at Burnley, and whatever. So you can support Leicester because your dad supports Leicester, but you're not supporting Man United, Man City, Chelsea, or Arsenal just because they're on the TV all the time. And thankfully, I won. So, Zach, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem, Cliff. I was very glad to be here. Technical issues and all.
Give people a shout out as to where they can find you.
All right, so I can be found on Twitter and Instagram using the handle you see on screen, SplunkATO. I discussed about Leicester City, but I'll talk about the MLS. So if you just want to just give a follow there, that would be perfect. And I'm very glad to be here.
Brilliant. Now, take care and stay safe, and fingers crossed, all being well, we'll be seeing you, talking in a month's time, and hopefully we'll be talking about a European final.
Well, as I kind of mentioned, kind of like privately, around this time next month, I'll be celebrating my 5th wedding anniversary.
Oh, indeed! Congratulations! Congratulations!
So it might be the Chris and Alex show next month.
It might well be. It might well be. Depends how the days go. But congratulations on your anniversary in advance, and to Mrs. Splunkato as well. I suppose I don't know how to refer to her.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care, mate, and stay safe. Thank you very much.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to Zach for joining us there, all the way from the good old US of A. It is a sloppy seconds night tonight, because coming up we have our second show of the evening, which is going to be the championship review. Last night we did one very great, and thanks for coming on, Mike. Mike came on and talked lower divisions with us, League One and League Two, and it was a great chat. Loved having him on. Thank you so much. And tonight we're going to be looking at the championship. Who may not be staying in the championship much longer? Derby. Who might be 5 years? You couldn't make it to 5 days, mate. Yeah, I can believe that. Actually. 5 years. You see, that 5 years is still the love period. wait until you get to sort of 25. You put me off now, Mike. So we've got the championship review at 9 o'clock, and if Norwich, Watford, possibly Burnley go down, who might be replacing them? Who do you want to replace them? We'll see you at 9. And thanks for that. And thanks to everybody who watched this evening and everybody who listened this evening. If you do one thing tonight, please do this. Yeah, please like, share, and subscribe if you would to the YouTube channel, like I say, Leicester Till I Die TV. And if you want to give me a follow, there we go, at Leicester TID on the old Twitter, or Leicester Till I Die 1 on Instagram. I'm going to be back in an hour and 4 minutes. There's nothing like being precise. I will see you then. Take care.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye, and see you next time.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
That's all, folks.